Excited about today's program. I have a really great guest, and I am excited to sit here and be able to talk with Kellen Matthews. Hey, Kellen, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thanks. Thanks for joining me today.
Absolutely.
I'm excited because, first of all, I have a lot of admiration and respect for you as an individual and for what you're doing. But second of all, to find out a lot more about you and as an individual and what you're doing.
Right on. I appreciate that.
I know who you are. I am aware of it because I've been following you on social media for quite some time. But tell us, who is Kellen Matthews?
My name is Kellen Matthews. I'm an endurance athlete out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I'm also a recovering addict.
Right on. How long have you been in recovery?
6 years. I just celebrated 6 years, February 2nd.
Congratulations.
2023.
Right.
Thank you.
That's amazing. That's awesome. 6 years is something to really be proud of.
Absolutely.
Especially in today's world. And anybody out there in recovery knows that 6 years is like forever.
It's been a long road.
Absolutely. I'm sure. So, that's a really good way to start then. You're a recovering addict. I mean, it's funny because there was such a stigma about recovery years ago. And I've been in recovery, it'll be going on 8 years. And even when I first got into it, maybe the stigma was myself and not wanting to talk about it and not wanting to share because there's so many people out there that think differently about addicts, and all of a sudden, you have these voices like yours that are out there that are telling their story and sharing their story and letting people know. And so really, what is your story? I mean, tell me, I can do like an intake with you here,
Well, first of all, I just want to say that that's like the most ruthless part of the disease of addiction, right? Is that it tricks you into thinking that like there's something wrong with you and like you can't tell anybody.
Absolutely.
And you have to like figure this all out on your own.
Shame.
Right. It's like shame, guilt. Like every time that I fell along my journey, it was like the most scary thing to come out and tell people because I didn't want to let my mom down again or my wife or my friends because like growing up in high school I was like an athlete, right? And I was always praised, and my mom's side of the family was always like, Kellen, you're perfect, like everything is great, everyone was at my baseball games, wrestling matches, and like everything was going good, but on the inside everything wasn't good, and I can't tell you exactly what it was that switched in my brain that made me feel that way or feel like there was something empty or missing in my life. But yeah, growing up, I kind of was always just had that void to fill. And yeah. And
it's funny you say that, the struggle is real.
Right.
People, when they say that, it's sort of a ha-ha, tongue-in-cheek sort of thing. But with people that are, in addiction, that the struggle is really real. It's something that, because on the outside, you're projecting one image, but on the inside, you're feeling a totally different way.
Right.
So how long were you in this full-blown addiction? When did you start this, and did you realize that?
So I started to actively use recreationally when I was about 14.
Okay.
I started drinking just beer, smoking weed, and I was given painkillers for the first time by one of my buddy's moms. She had just a prescription. I believe she was diagnosed with MS.
Okay.
And she kind of just was like, here, take these. You guys can sell them. Lunch money, school clothes, whatever you need. I think that was the best way she knew how to be supportive to us. I don't think she did it thinking like, oh, I'm going to ruin these kids' lives. We were just living in an environment where like it was feast or famine, right? Like you had to figure out how to provide for your family, and that was the best way she knew how to. And unfortunately, instead of us selling them, we were using them. So at first it was like we would get a prescription once a month from this kid's mom, and we'd use for 5 days until they were gone. I'd go through like what I know are withdrawals now. I didn't realize at the time. I thought like, oh man, that sucks, they're gone. I can't sleep for a couple nights. Life kind of went back to normal.
Right.
But each month went by, I realized like, oh, if I use, like this goes away.
I don't feel bad then.
Right, exactly.
I still feel good.
Exactly. So that snowballed into that prescription alone started to cycle its way through the rest of my class in high school, and it turned into a lot of other kids bringing in their parents' prescriptions, and kind of like the cafeteria in the morning before class started was like a pharmacy, right? Like you came in with your lunch money, or like, you know, trading this or buying that, whatever it was, and you had your fix for the day. Luckily, I was able to kind of slide by the skin of my teeth and make it through high school. A story that like sticks out vividly to me is like, I remember like pitching a high school baseball game with a fentanyl patch like in my mouth, right? Like, in that, a lot of kids that would kill. I mean, absolutely. Everyone knows what fentanyl is, and that's like,
especially, and then the patch,
right? That's like a hospital grade fentanyl, very dangerous to use. So I had like a legit habit in high school, and it was kind of on and off. I wasn't at the point where I had to use every single day, but it was most of the time. I would say 70 to 80% of the time.
And this was your high school?
Yes. This
career.
Right. This while I'm in high school.
What year did you graduate high school?
2009.
Okay. I want to sort of put it in perspective on usage. That's why,
yes.
You know, sort of get that into perspective and sort of see.
Yes.
So that's interesting too. So, you know, that's still relatively recent.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Yes. So after high school, I joined the Masons Union, local 3BAC, and I was like one of their like star prospects coming in. I did this competition in high school called Skills USA, where they BOCES sends you to like this competition. They give you blueprints, you build this shed, and then there's like colleges and trade schools there that are like offering you, you know, offers for scholarships and stuff like that, and, you know, opportunities. Of course, I was like taking some Adderall while I was there so that I can, you know, feel okay and like perform what I thought in my head, like, I can only perform if I use, or I can only, you know.
Oh yeah.
So after high school, joined the Masons Union, and at first everything was good, and slowly but surely, like, the usage went from like Vicodin and Percocet to OxyContin and more of the fentanyl patches and stuff like that. And that slowly snowballed into from nasal ingestion to IV use. And I don't know if you remember when OxyContin went from being like the OxyContin to like the OP, what they call it, where they like, I don't know what the correct terminology is, but Opanas were then released onto the scene. And the method to intravenously use Opanas was like this crazy, you needed like 99% alcohol. You had to go through all this stuff.
You had to break it down.
Yeah, you had to break, exactly. So there was a point in time where I was using anywhere from 3 to 10 40s a day, if that means anything to anybody.
Well, that was a recovering addict. It means a lot to me, especially recovering, you know, opioid addict. You know, so not just that, you were also spending quite a little bit of money there.
So I was plugged in, you know, to a few different people, and I was basically just, you know, taking orders, upcharging people a couple dollars, you know, and making sure that I had enough to, you know, take care of myself.
I know that life.
And this was all before I was 21 years old. So I graduated when I was 17, so this is 17, 18. By 18, 19, I was IV using, and it wasn't long after I started IV using, maybe 6 months before my family started to catch on. My mom started to notice I had a lot of traffic coming to the house. I was losing weight. I wasn't coming around as much. If I was going through withdrawal, which happened frequently with the pills at the time, like, you went into withdrawal pretty quickly, like, if you didn't have your fix.
Oh, absolutely.
And obviously people are waiting on prescriptions. There's a lot of factors that go into, you know, using. You're ripping and running, constantly chasing that dragon. So, and my family realized that there was something going on, like the weight loss, traffic coming in and out of the house. So my mom reached out to my older brothers. I have 2 older brothers. I'm the youngest of 5. The rest of my siblings are half brothers and sisters. Anyways, my mom reached out to my brothers and was like, listen, your little brother's into something. I don't know exactly what it is. I need you guys to come down here and give me a hand with this so that we can figure it out. My mom confronted me before my brothers got there. So my first instinct was, it was fight or flight, right? So I was like, I'm out of here. You know, I'm gonna hit the road. I know best. I'm gonna figure this out on my own. I'm good to go. I don't need any help. You guys are crazy. Like, this is what I need. This is what I want to do. Like, you guys aren't in control of me. You know, so my mom confronted me before my brothers got there, and I decided like fight or flight hit, and I was gonna hit the road and be on my way, figure it out on my own, and I was gonna put my trust in my friends that I was using with. So we hit the road for a while. My brothers are like calling people. They're like trying to figure out where I'm at. My cousin is a New York State trooper, so he's like, you know, doing what he has to do to kind of track me down. And
I call that the manhunt.
Yes.
I call that like when you go into that flight mode as somebody who's in addiction, an active addiction, and the family starts looking for you. That's the manhunt. You know,
right.
The manhunt goes on. They're calling everybody they know and
exactly.
visiting every spot that they know. So yeah.
And basically, it came down to like essentially us pulling up to the same red light, right? My brothers see me, and like they get out of the car like they're gonna have to chase me, but like I didn't want any, you know, altercation at all. I just didn't want to come to terms with, you know, what I had going on. I didn't want to tell anybody. I was running away from my biggest fear, and my biggest fear was everybody finding out that I had been using, you know, heavy prescription painkillers, and that like there was something wrong with me. Because I had been praised for so long, like, oh, you're so great, everything's good, you're going to be this amazing person, you're going to grow up to be this amazing person, and, like, I had felt like I had let everyone down.
And that's a typical example of somebody who is fighting a stigma, because, you know, we're so prone to, like, you know, be the best that we could be, and be the perfect child, and live that perfect life, and never admit that there's something wrong, or that we're feeling a certain way, and just go about our smiling every day,
right.
And all of a sudden now, wait a second, my son's an addict, you know, or my child has an issue, and it's very difficult because, like, you know, you don't want to put that shame and guilt on the family and on yourself,
right? And
so this happened. They found you.
Yeah. So in like most families, at first, like everyone was really upset, you know, and like I didn't know how to respond to that because, you know, I knew that I had let everyone down, but I didn't understand why everyone was mad at me, because it's not like I didn't make this decision as an adolescent that I was going to, like, destroy my life, right? I didn't consciously think that, like, if I take this pill, you know, this is going to destroy everything that I know. Like, my life as I know it is going to just crumble. Not immediately, but slowly and surely it's going to turn into a hell. So I kind of, I sat down with my family. We had like this intervention, and we decided that I was going to go to a detox in Buffalo, New York. Now it's February, right? So Buffalo, New York in February is very cold, windy, blustery. There's 4 foot of snow on the ground. It's the same snow that fell in September, still in February, right? It's just accumulated into this huge pile. So my brothers spend all this time. I go to Erie Hospital, I believe, and they hang with me until I get a bed. Have to jump through all these hoops to get me in.
So even like the CRC route and everything?
Yes.
Okay.
So I get in there. They get me all settled. I would say 8 hours in, obviously the withdrawal starts to set in, and then my mind starts to, you know, race a bit. I start to panic. For some reason, this detox like was giving me access to the phone, which was interesting. So I got on the horn with my then girlfriend, and I was like, hey, listen, I need you to come to Buffalo. 3-hour drive from Binghamton. I need you to come up here. I need you to pick me up. This is not for me. Can't do it. Don't want to do it. Like, I want to come back home with you. I love you. And she was like, say no more.
Wow.
You got it. So I go up to the front desk, and I kind of jumped the gun here. I go up to the front desk, and I'm like, listen, I'm signing myself out. I'm out of here. I'm good. I don't need this. They're like, you sure? Like, you want us to call anyone? No, I'm good to go. So they sign my papers, give me my stuff, and I'm on my way. Again, it's February in Buffalo, very cold. I have nowhere to go. And I'm essentially waiting for nobody to come, because my girlfriend at the time is not actually coming. She doesn't have the means to come. I sat outside for like 3 hours, still detoxing, you know, going through scenarios in my head, and my brother comes walking up, you know, and he looks at me. He's like, what are you doing out? And the only thing I could think to say was, oh, they let me out, you know. And he was like, no, dude, they didn't let you out. And we went and sat in his truck, and I basically went back to his house after another, like, sit-down intervention, talk to, like, this isn't what you want to do. So I detoxed on his couch. And that was the first time I experienced recovery. I got into the rooms, I got a sponsor, And I stayed clean for about 6 months until I went back to Binghamton, got around the same kids, the same friends that I thought that I had. And it was like, I had learned all this stuff, and while I was in Buffalo, I was this totally different person, like this changed person. When I'm on the phone with my family, I'm like, I know what to say, how to say it, I know how to play the game, right?
Yeah.
And then as soon as I get in front of this other group of people, it's like an instant switch. Boom. I'm right back into the same Kellen that person left 6 months ago, right? And
well, didn't you learn anything those 6 months? People, places, things. People, places, things.
Yeah.
Didn't they drill that into you?
Yes. Exactly.
But when you got back, you thought that you could overcome that.
Well, because I still had those reservations sitting back there.
You weren't ready.
Right.
You weren't ready then.
As much as I enjoyed being clean, and like I started to get into the gym and stuff, and I really enjoyed the freedom of not having to use. Like, that was great. But I could not get over the love that I had for getting high. Right? It was just like, it had my heart. That's the only way I can explain it. It was like the love of my life at that time. Like, it was more important than eating, showering, my family, my friends. Heroin was at the top of the pyramid.
Well, you said it, it was chasing the dragon. We did it. That's what we live for every day. You go to bed at night wondering how you're going to get up the next morning and what you're going to do and how you're going to get it and where you're going to get it, and then what happens when that's gone. And it's, you're trying to stay one step ahead of yourself.
Exactly.
And it becomes tiring.
Exactly.
So how old were you at this point?
I was 20, so this all happened, like, I went to treatment for the first time at 19. So yeah, I was in my 20s, right in the year of 20 there. And so I had gone back to Binghamton a few times. Each time I went back there, I would come back to Buffalo and play it off like everything was cool. Like, I was still, in recovery, everything is good to go. I didn't want to tell my sponsor, my brother, again, I didn't want to come to terms with what I had done. Mm-hmm. So about that time, or after I went to treatment, I found out I had hepatitis C. So that was also fucking with me a bit, right? Like,
and it's something that's common too when you're your IV, when you're injecting.
Right.
That becomes something that's very common. It's something that people worry about. You test for it, and that, of course, that plays with that mind then.
Yeah. I got the call from the Binghamton Health Department, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we just want to let you know you have hepatitis C." And that kind of like, that feeling of like your heart sinking into your stomach. And so I was trying to deal with that.
Isn't it interesting, though, that like your heart will sink into your stomach finding out you have hepatitis C, but your heart doesn't sink into your stomach thinking about injecting that heroin into your system because you're looking for that thrill and you're looking for that high.
It does like the opposite.
Really interesting how your brain becomes rewired.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that. People that haven't used in that aspect don't realize that. So I'm glad to hear you say that.
Yeah. So after I had been doing the back and forth to Binghamton, using when I went back, come back, playing it cool, I had eventually found a connect in Buffalo, and things kind of really went down quickly from there. But I was able to talk my way back into my mom's house. I was using the hepatitis, I'm going to do treatment, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to do all this stuff. I knew all the right things to say, again, to get to my mom's heart. And to
manipulation.
To get back in the front door.
Yeah.
So when I got back to Binghamton...
Makes me proud.
Yeah, right. When I got back to Binghamton, it wasn't long before my mom was like, "Oh, nothing changed. Like, you're the exact same person that left here."
High hopes.
Yeah. And again, she gave me the ultimatum of like, this time it was, you're either going to treatment or you're going on the street. And again, I picked the street. And I was like, okay, I know better. I can do this without you guys. I don't need you guys. And so I did the couch surfing thing for a while until I realized, like, maybe this isn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. It was much easier when I had a warm bed to sleep in for free, and my mom was kind of, allowing me to get high in her house. So I reached back out to my family, and we talked about getting into treatment, and so I go down that road again. Another treatment facility, and I continued to do that same cycle from 20 to 26.
How many times were you in treatment?
6 times total.
6 times total?
Yeah.
What was your longest clean time in those 6 years, or that 6 times?
6 months. Right around 6 months was all I could accumulate. I did the
6
whole.
months is a long time, for it. Did you work like the program then? Is that what you were doing? That kept you long, that 6 months? You worked the program.
I mean, I knew how to pretend.
Do you work it now?
I work my own program.
Spiritual program?
Yeah, not necessarily the AA or the NA version. I took what I needed to take from those, and like I tell everybody that comes to me and asks me like, yo, what do I do? Like, how did you do it? I say, listen, start off in the rooms. Like, that's a great foundation to build. Like, they're going to tell you what not to do, and they're going to give you some ideas to do that are going to help. I mean, listen, the rooms have been around for a long time for a reason.
And it works for people.
Yes.
You know, and I had made a post about this, like, you know, recovery your way, though.
Yes.
You know, and you can't balk at somebody else's recovery, because if it's working for them, let it work.
Right.
You know, and I'm the same. In the very beginning, I tell everybody, get the rooms.
Right.
Get as much as you can. It's those connections. You know you're not alone. You know there's something not wrong with you there.
Exactly.
But then all of a sudden, if you can work on your own and be strong and be this voice, which you are, that works. So, but anyway, so
absolutely. And like with the rooms, it's interesting is that like each community obviously has different members.
Absolutely.
So like you're gonna pull from different recoveries. Like if you end up in an area that doesn't have good recovery, like it's hard for me to say like, oh, you gotta hit the rooms, because like you might not get what you need to get from it. And like if I keep telling you to go back and it's not working for you and you end up dead because like nobody has anything to offer for you, like I don't want that blood on my hands. So like for me, like I've had the bad experience with a bad sponsor. Not bad, just somebody who wasn't right for me.
Right.
Like I don't want to say that they were good or bad. It was just like what was working for him wasn't working for me. So I made the decision around my 1 year clean in this, you know, roundabout that I was not going to go to the rooms anymore.
So you had your longest clean time was 6 months. 6 months. So this year clean, was this your now journey into your?
Yes, this is my journey.
Your journey into this where you are now.
Exactly.
So and how many years was that? Like in between the first time you went to treatment to the last time?
6 years.
So it was 6 years.
Yeah.
And you had been using
from 14. So it's like 12 years of using, right? Maybe 6 months at best. I might be being a little generous there. You know, 6 months at best of clean time in that. Alright, so after I went to treatment for the second time, I was in Allenwood, Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, White Deer Run, if that rings
I
a
was going
bell.
to say White Deer Run.
Yeah, that was the old the old crematorium that's there. Like, the entire 30 days I was there, I was literally plotting me using the day that I got out. My mom was sending me like money orders that you could put on the books there, and I caught on that those money orders were cashed out at the end of your time there.
Right, whatever was left on your books you got.
Yes,
yeah.
in cash.
Yeah.
So I knew that the day that I got out, they were going to drop me off at the footstep. I'm going to a meeting. I'll be back, right? Because I knew what to say, knew when to say it, and my plan was to take the money that I had to go score some bags of dope, to go sit in the woods, and then just push off and hopefully not wake up, right? Because like I could not get over the fact that like I tried it. Like I tried to be clean, and it just was like overwhelming. Not being clean wasn't overwhelming. The need to get high was overwhelming. Like it was just consuming every thought that I had. Even with 6 months clean, like the idea of getting high was like, it was like so fulfilling that that's just what I wanted to do. I wanted to get high and stay high forever. And in my mind, I justified, you know, committing suicide, and that was gonna, you know, be the answer to all my problems.
Do you think, you know, and it's funny, I'm glad, it's not funny, I'm glad that you said that, because I don't think a lot of people realize the pain, the internal pain and the mental pain that those who are in active addiction or who are even in addiction, you know, go through, to the point that, you know, there's that old saying, you know, there's going to be 3 ways you're getting out of this. And it's either going to be you're going to be in jail, you're going to go clean, or you're going to be dead.
Right.
And that latter option is what a lot of us who, you know, are addicts want. What made you think that was the easy way out? What made you think that was the best way out?
I guess it was just, it was the only option that was going to take little to no work, right? I wasn't going to have to go up against anything besides taking the route that I wanted to take anyways, which was getting high. So I didn't have like the balls to do it though, right? So when it came down to it, and I had the drugs, it was like, oh, maybe I'll just do a little bit, because in my head I was like, oh, what if it doesn't work, right? What if I wake up, now I have no money,
no drugs,
no drugs, right? Exactly. So what if it doesn't work? Then what? What am I gonna do now? So when I got home from that time, I used, and then it rolled right back into the same deal.
Groundhog Day.
Yes, exactly. It was like I just exactly woke up the day before I went to rehab, and I was right back where I left off. And again, my family sits me down. Here's the ultimatum: you're either going out on the street or you're going to treatment. And again, I was like, all right, I'm going out on the street. I was running around with a girlfriend that I had. This was a different girlfriend. I seen like some dark sides of addiction at that point, because like she started to sell herself and was like into the prostitution thing. We were jumping from motels, and like I just seen some shit that like I never seen myself being in, like this like situation that I was just dumped into. Like it all happened so fast. It went from like the using that was like, I want to say innocent, like adolescent using, where I was just like popping a couple pills and partying, to just like that dark prostitution, like I'm gonna take everything you have, like I'll take the shoes off your feet, just like animalistic, not showering, shit so fast.
And it happens fast. I mean, it's a quick downward spiral.
Right.
I mean, it takes everything you have literally very quickly.
Yeah.
And to realize that and to see that, and I wish we could say that your story is unique, but we find it all too often, especially if you sit in the rooms or you talk to other people who are recovering, that sex work is a huge part of addiction, and following those the darkest times you ever met, the darkest place you ever been.
Right.
So here you were now in these motels and finding dark places, and what happened?
So again, it's like you said, it's Groundhog's Day. So I reach out to my family again. I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Like I know that I don't want to do this. Like this is scary, and I can see that this isn't the life for me. Like I know that I have potential to be better than this. I just didn't have the courage to do what I had to do just yet, but I knew that I wanted to change. So I talked my family into letting me back in. This time I go to my aunt's house, who like kind of holds me more accountable. I'm kind of more attentive to them.
I like how you say that. I talked to my family into letting me in.
Yeah. And they housed me for a few days. Now, I grew up with an aunt that had an opiate addiction, but she was like a doctor shopper, right? So she was like, it was like kind of
old school.
Yeah, but it was like kind of okay, right? Because she wasn't like out ripping and running and scratching, for bags of dope. Like she just went to the pharmacy, picked up her prescription on OC80s, and then everything was good.
Yeah.
Right. So
until they got onto the national database,
exactly.
And then. Yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. So I went to their place. They like got me right while I was like looking for a treatment center to go to, and I was doing research, and I seen the Watershed in Florida. It was in Boynton Beach, and they were like, I talked to the people on the phone. They were like, yeah, we'll put you on a plane tomorrow morning. We got gourmet food, gym, pool, sauna, acupuncture. In my eyes were probably like, my mom was probably looking at me like, oh wow, like he's excited to go. I was like, this is gonna be great. Like this is the answer to all my problems, right? And I take a 5-hour bus ride. Now this was like, I know this had to been hard for my mom, because she like drops me off at the bus station with like, my aunt gave me a couple of pills to make sure that I was gonna make it there, right? But they just had to just like,
goodbye,
good luck.
Yeah.
I made it to JFK. I got an airplane. I flew to Florida. They had a driver there that picked me up. I woke up the next morning and I was in withdrawal in a treatment center in Florida, and it was nice at first. The classes that they're putting you through, like everything was cool. Everything was nice. The counselors were these like beautiful women. Like everything was cool. And after you're there for 30 days, they send you to PHP. And it was like night and day, right? We went from this like resort to
a trap
house. Right. It was like we were in a fenced-in area where there's just like essentially dope dealers like on the outside of the gates.
Yeah.
Right? And like for the treatment center, like this is a perfect setup, right? Because every time you leave those gates and you come back in with dirty urine, they're sending you back to the top.
It's almost like it's a business.
Yeah.
and they're working together.
Exactly.
You know, have you ever seen the movie with oh my gosh, Mila Kunis?
Yes. What is that?
So Many Good Days.
Yes. I actually watched that with Cass.
Yeah, I've watched it twice. It's a great movie. I anyway, the same thing as you saw when she went into the clinic, and her mom was sitting there in the car looking, and that's the exact same thing that was happening.
Exactly.
And people don't realize, but that's what happens.
Right.
So you went from this, you know, this Malibu type treatment center in Florida to this trap house that they sent you to afterwards to work on your aftercare.
Right.
And?
Yep, so I was able to stay clean for a while, right? And I honestly was able to get away from the dope dealers, and I got in with a solid group of people. I got into the gym, right? And I'm lifting, and I'm doing all this stuff and ripping and running around, but, like, not all the behaviors have changed, right? Like, I'm still lying. Like, I'm still chasing girls and, like, really not diving into the program. Like, I was going to meetings, but I wasn't going to meetings for the recovery.
And I think that's a good thing too, because people don't realize too that, like, they think that all of a sudden this is because that you went into treatment that you're saved or you're cured or whatever, and now you go to meetings. But the people don't realize that there's other addictions. Then there's the sex part of it. There's the sex. You know, you run around, you don't really care, and people don't talk about that. But it's cool that you can talk about it. There's the gambling. There's the thrilling. There's the other stuff that you replace for that high that you were shooting into your body to keep yourself going. So, you know, if you don't work on that, you're really, truly not in recovery, are you?
Exactly.
Yeah, but anyway.
Yeah, so I was going to meetings.
Remember that next time. No.
Yeah. So I was going to meetings. I was doing my thing. I was, like, playing, like, the cool guy role. I had my Facebook, you know what I mean? All the people from back home are, like, seeing that I'm, like, you know, skateboarding down by the beach. I'm hanging out with these, like, pretty girls that, you know, came from well-off families. They're at this nice treatment center. They've been in treatment for 30 days, so now they, you know, they're good-looking girls. Like, I'm having a blast. Time of my life. This is great. And I fell into kratom. I don't know if you've ever heard of kratom.
Oh, absolutely. Most people, though, would say kratom.
Kratom, kratom, whatever.
But yeah, kratom. Well, that's because you, once again, followed the path of most addicts and was like, oh, I hear this is really good for you, but I didn't know they addicted. Anyway, go ahead, Talk about that part of it.
So I kept hearing about it while I was in PHP, right? People were like, oh, it makes you feel like you used, but you won't pee dirty. And I seen a kid come back, and he was like, his eyes were literally going in two different directions while he was nodding out. I was like, where do you get that? Like, I think I want to try that.
Smoke shop.
Right, yeah. So, and it's big down there in, like, the Delray, Boynton Beach area.
Yes, it is.
So I went to, like, the Kava bar, they called it, and I got some, and the first time I used it, I was like, oh, yeah. Like, now, like, I had been, like, hanging out with the women and stuff, but now I could, like, I got my confidence back.
Yeah, because now you're high.
Yes, exactly. I thought it was confidence, right? I just said whatever I wanted to say. I was really sounding like a dummy.
Real funny, too. Once again, you know, in addiction, you know, there's that fake confidence, you know? And what year was this?
So that was, I would say 2012.
So you were sort of just like substituting all your addictions for one after another, after another, after another.
Yep.
What was like that final, what was that climax? What was that, you know, pinnacle, like denouement that was like, that's it. Man, I've now been to Florida and I've hung out with, you know, Barbies in Florida, you know, right? You know, I played Tony Hawk, hung out with Barbies in Florida. I was living the life that nobody in Binghamton, New York was ever going to live.
Right.
And here was all because of my addiction.
Yeah.
And I was doing this for free.
Right.
Because of whatever, you know, I thought it was free.
Yeah.
You know, so how did you, because nobody's ever going to save you. Your family will never do that. I don't care what anybody ever says. The only person that's ever going to save you is yourself. How did you save yourself, man? What was that?
So basically, I ended up in Florida. I made my way to the Philadelphia area, and I had...
You heard about Kensington, huh?
Right. So I'd done the Suboxone maintenance thing for a while, and the Suboxone maintenance allowed me to, like, get some life skills and, like, you know, hold a job. Function, correct. And I, was able to, like, get a nice apartment, and, you know, I was living what I would say was a pretty normal life. I was still partying and doing that kind of thing, you know, cocaine, ecstasy, and that's around the time I met Cass, my wife, and that went on for a while. This is 2017. I believe it was 2017, like the late summer, August. Cass and I link up. I, right at that time, stop using my Suboxone, go back into using heroin, right? And I'm putting on this front for this beautiful girl that I met that I'm trying to impress and trying to, you know, start a relationship with, while at the same time I'm still trying to hang on to the relationship I have with, like, the real love of my life at the time, you know? So living this double life. This goes on for...
Spoken like a true head.
Yeah,
okay. Right. I love it. Just keep reaffirming. Keep reaffirming.
So this goes on for like 4 months until one weekend I go down to Baltimore to visit with Cass. Now, I would leave Philadelphia on a Friday night to drive to Baltimore. I would tell Cass, listen, I'll be there at 6. I would always stop at my dealer's house first, pick up what I needed. This specific Friday, I was like, oh, I'll just grab some crack too. You know, I'll just drive down to Baltimore. I'll be there at 6. And that didn't happen. I drove down to Baltimore. I ended up like with some prostitutes in a motel. 72 hours go by. Cass is like calling me, ringing me. My paycheck is gone. I have zero money left at this point, and I had just been paid on Friday. So now I'm really panicking. Anxiety, fear setting in. Cass is looking for me. I don't know how I'm gonna get high the rest of the week. Like, this is a big problem, right, in my head. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go see Cass. You know, I'm gonna smooth things out with her. On my way back to Philadelphia, I'm going to stop at the bridge that crosses the Susquehanna on 95. I'm going to park my truck and I'm going to jump off. And that will be the solution to my problem. Like, I won't have to deal with any of this. I won't have to tell my mom again. I won't have to come clean to my bosses or to this girl. Like, I don't have to deal with this shit anymore. Like, it's just going to be done and over with. Like, I can't continue to live in this, like, constant peak and valley of like being super high and then crashing and being super depressed and then scared and lonely and not having any idea which direction to turn in. You know, like, I was just sick of that constant cycle of just going around and around and around. And even though in the back of my head, like, I knew that I didn't want to do it anymore, like, every morning I woke up and I was fucking getting high again, you know? And so on that drive back, Cass called me. It was like, hey, I just want to say, like, you're acting weird, like, you've been missing all weekend, like, what is really going on with you? Like, are you cheating on me? Like, what is the deal? And at that time, like, it just, like, I was ready to surrender. Like, at that very moment, it was just, like, I felt in, like, a safe place to be able to just tell her, like, yo, this is what I have going on. Like, I need help. I don't know if you can help me. I don't know how to help myself, but, like, this is my problem. This is where I'm at. And, like, I'm about to jump off a bridge right now, so, like, what should I do? And she was like, she talked me down, essentially. I made it back to Philadelphia. I was living with one of my good friends, Potter, who's also 6 years clean. We got clean at the same time. That at the time we were using together. He was, like, detoxing on my couch at the time. And I got back because I had, like, was supposed to come back with the stuff, you know, and the money. And, like, yo, you'll be good when I get back. That was never the case. But I got back, and when I got back in the house, I was like, yo, I told everybody. You know, like, the cat's out of the bag. You know, and he was like, I see, like, he got anxious and stuff, because obviously, like, he's keeping it from his family. He's got the same, you know, same story of being an addict. And, yeah, so that next day, like, I basically sat down with 2 of my best friends who were my bosses at the time. It was like, yo, like, I gotta go to treatment. Like, I was about to be evicted out of my apartment. I had been paying rent for like 4 months. I hadn't paid any of my bills for that matter, except for my cell phone bill.
Of course. You need that lifeline. You need the dealers to get your stuff. I was just thinking that. I'm like, don't be a liar. I paid with my cell phone. And that was like waiting until like it was like the 3rd month.
Yeah, right. Just don't shut it off. I got a couple bucks.
Yeah, what do I need? $100. I got it. Yeah, I get it. I understand that.
Yeah. So, basically, at that moment in time, like, it was time to do some work to figure out. I didn't have any health insurance, so I had to figure some things out. Luckily, the only thing that I had going for me at this time is that I was in with my 2 best friends that were giving me work. I was doing apartment renovations, so I was bringing in money pretty quickly, you know, and I basically let them know, they were like, listen, we're going to give you an allowance, you know, keep working for us, we'll give you an allowance, you can push off, do what you got to do to get well, but like, we're not going to give you all your money anymore. Like, you're under our supervision now, we're going to get you into treatment, and we're going to figure this thing out. Unfortunately, as you know, getting into treatment is difficult, so it was happening at a time where, like, you can't just, like, go online and be like, yeah, I want insurance.
Right.
You know, like, you got to do some things.
Yeah, that's a little different.
Yeah, so luckily, CASP was coming up. We figured out, I got some health insurance. I was, like, kind of trying to get into treatment, but I was still kind of a little hesitant because they were just, you know, giving me some money every day. So, like, I was comfortable again. Everything was good. Like, the secret was out. Right, so I wasn't hiding I didn't have all that sitting on my shoulders anymore, and I was able to use every day. Until one day, I was living in Norristown at the time, and my dealer was out. You know, so I was like, well, this sucks. So, drive down to Kensington. I'm at Frankfurt in Orleans, right? Meet a guy there, pick up from him, push off, turn the truck on, go to pull out. Whoop, whoop. Philadelphia police pull me over, comes up to the car, excuse me, any drugs or guns in the car? I was like, no. Just points his flashlight down. He's like, what's on your lap? And I literally have wax bags like all over my lap. He's like, I'm gonna need you to step out of the car. So yeah, I had like 5 or 6 bags of heroin on me. They put me in the back.
All that, you know.
Yeah. At the time, yeah, exactly.
Little blue baggies of fentanyl.
Yeah. At the they threw me in the back of the squad car, took me to the roundhouse. I sat there for 18 hours.
Roundhouse is great, isn't it? It's a beautiful place. Thank gosh they let me have my jacket. I used it as a pillow next to the toilet.
The only thing that saved me is I had my watch on.
Oh, nice.
Right, so like that was the only thing that kind of kept me sane when I was in there. But I was like in there with 2 guys that were tripping on PCP.
2 guys in the roundhouse in one.
Well, no, there was 4 of us in there.
Oh,
yeah, there was 4 of us in there, but there was 2 of the guys were high on PCP. They toss us in like a cheese sandwich, you know, every 8 hours or whatever, 4 hours, with like the little bottle of Poland Springs. And luckily, again, my bosses bailed me out. I remember that morning coming out of the roundhouse, and like it was
8th and race.
It was freezing cold outside, and I was like withdrawing, sweating, hot, cold, and like my bosses are like, "What's your insurance number?" Like they're like, "Yo, we gotta go now. Like we gotta get this kid into treatment now. Like this is important." And like I couldn't think. It was just absolute pandemonium. Cass came up, and we hit the ground running. We started calling rehabs. Luckily, I got back into the watershed. This time in Houston, Texas, a much smaller facility, not like your Malibu, facility like you were explaining.
Right.
This was like more like down to earth. There was like some actual recovery going on there, and for whatever reason, when I got there, I just felt like I was at home. Like I felt like this like calm. There was this woman. Her name was.
You felt like it was the actual watershed,
right?
Actual connotation of a watershed.
There was this woman there. Her name was Teresa, and she just like spit like that old school like raw recovery. Right, she was like, she cursed, and she was like super cool, but she gave it to you for real, like raw.
You connected.
Yeah, I connected with her, and she like kind of, guided me through. And when I got there, I made the decision that I wasn't gonna be like the shithead that was like, running around talking to girls, like trying to do shit behind people's backs. Like, I was like gonna be a pillar, right? And I was gonna like read when they told me to read. I was gonna, write when they told me to write, and I was gonna do the things that the doctors were saying to do. And like I was saying, like I sat in on a meeting one day, and Dr. Bender was like talking about the correlation between running and recovery and addicts, and it like something just clicked. It was like all of these things were just lining up.
So this happened all in Houston.
Yes.
So Houston is really like life change for you.
Yes.
Who would ever thought you'd change your life in Houston?
Right.
That's great. So this Dr. Bender talked to you about like the correlation between like the endorphins from running and stuff, and
yes,
and so all of a sudden that clicked with you. Because you're an athletic person.
Yeah. So I had always been into sports and stuff growing up. I'd never been into endurance sports though. Had zero. I wasn't like a track and field guy, nothing like that. I had no experience with like running long distances or swimming or cycling or anything like that. But
the 3 things of a marathon you just mentioned right there. Your mind's in marathon mode. Very cool.
Yeah.
So did you start running in Houston?
So I did a little bit. Now, my ability to run at the time, I was like smoking a pack of Newport 100s a day.
You run to the end of the block? Yeah, that's all right.
I was smoking Newports, eating Otis Spunkmeyer chocolate chip muffins.
What's wrong with this? You're talking about my everyday now.
And drinking a lot of soda, but like at the time, like I needed that, right? Like I was like putting some weight back on. But when I got out of treatment, the way that I viewed myself started to change, right? Because I was a little overweight. I had like the man boobs going on, and I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin again. One of my good buddies, John, who is the owner of the company that I was working for at the time, he kind of had some experience with running and stuff like that, and he was like, yo, check this out, you know, like maybe you should get into this, like check this out. And so when I got out of treatment, I got into a halfway house on Cherry Street in Norristown. I started running a mile a day. And that mile a day led me to stopping smoking cigarettes, making healthier eating choices, right? And it was slowly compounding into going to Planet Fitness every day. And I started to realize that like I wanted to spend more and more time at the gym, and then that was like the most important part of my day, right? It was like that substitution taking place. Like the feeling that I got after I exercised was not only like accomplished, but I felt like the endorphins, right? I was like getting like a high from physically exerting myself, and it went from just doing like the basic like bodybuilding stuff and turned into just absolutely getting after at the gym, like CrossFit stuff, and then it evolved during the pandemic into endurance sports, right? All the gyms shut down and running was my only outlet, and I got involved with some guys in the Willow Grove area that are into long distance running, and they were like, you ever think about running 100 miles? And I was like, no, but I'm interested, you know? And he was like, oh, well, let's try to run the Schuylkill River Trail. I was like, how far? He's like, 116 miles. I was like, all right, you know, why not? Like, at the time, I was thinking, like, if I can will my way through not getting high, like, I can will my way through running 116 miles, because a lot of times in these races that
At
I
one
do...
time? One time?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I don't even like to drive 116 miles at one time.
Yeah, I get that a lot. A lot of people say that. So a lot of times in like these endurance events that I do now, ultra marathons, I'll call them, that's where my mind goes, right? It's back to like withdrawal.
So you did the 116 miles though?
So the first time I attempted it, I did 89 miles in 23 hours. I wasn't...
Just 89.
Right. I wasn't prepared for the pain that I was going to be in.
Oh.
I also
both physical and mental?
Yes. I was also very underprepared at the time. I wasn't aware of, like, the nutrition aspect, hydration. Like, I thought that I was just going to go out with a couple candy bars, a couple bananas, and a bottle of water in, like, true David Goggins fashion. And just, like, you know, run my way through 116 miles.
You did 89.
I did 89, which was a huge confidence boost. And when we finished, it wasn't any more than the next morning me talking to my buddy Soli, like, yo, we got to go back. Right, we got to do this again. This time, I was doing my research. I was learning about the nutrition aspect. I got a training plan, and that April 16th, we went back. Unfortunately, I was having like some IT issues in my knee leading up, and that flared up about 8 miles into the 116 miles. I ended up completing another 83 miles, so I ended up about the same place that I was at. Most of the run was in a bad knee, and that like damaged my ego for a bit because I had to quit again. He finished 116 miles, has the fastest known time for the Schuylkill River Trail, which is cool. Congrats to him. But I had to take a break from running for a little bit after that, and I had to kind of let that flame reignite. So after I took some time off, like 6 months, I was still in the gym, just lifting weights, just moving my body, just the the normal everyday stuff to like get my endorphins flowing. And that same group of guys kind of tricked me into coming out on a Saturday morning run. They were like, hey, you want to do the 4 corners, which at the time I didn't know what it was. So I show up that Saturday morning, we start running at the Wissahickon. And I was like, how far are we doing today, guys? Thinking it's going to be like 7, 8 miles. I hadn't run more than 5 miles in 6 months. And they're like, oh, we're going to do 22 today. And I was like, okay, we're going to buckle in, we're going to get it done. And after that run, it like reignited. It was a struggle. Right, it was not easy getting through this 22 miles. Probably harder than running the 89 miles the first time. But when I finished up, I was like, wow, I feel great. Like, I overcame that, and I got a little taste of adversity that I needed, and it was, like, back to the grindstone. I signed up for a couple races. I hired a coach, and I was, like, back into chasing the 100-mile journey. I did a couple. Last year, I did a 50K, 2 50-milers. I did a 24-hour event in Collingswood, New Jersey, where I won, set a course record, ran 108 miles in 23 hours and 25 minutes, and yeah, had a good day.
It just reunited you, man. That's awesome. Yeah. So the running for you, like you're more into running than you are into the mass building and the bodybuilding and stuff.
So I like to label myself as a hybrid athlete. Like, I have the weights and stuff in my basement. Like, I love to lift. I mean, was like my first love. But like right now, I am just completely immersed in like running culture and running fast and running far. So yeah,
that's awesome. And, you know, running and recovery go hand in hand. You know, it really does, because it's something that gets people back on their feet. You know, there's actually an organization called Back on Their Feet.
Okay.
Here in Philly that works with people that are experiencing homelessness and substance use disorder, mental health, because people forget that like people that are experiencing substance use disorder usually comes from some form of mental health. You know, that goes hand in hand somewhere there. So that exercise really is huge and ignites it. And there's one thing, I mean, you became a voice. You really, you know, to be on the show, be a voice, you became a voice. Like, you took your recovery even further by becoming this, you know, and I really hate the word influencer. I really do. I'm sorry. That's just me personally. You know, but you are an impactor. You know, you really are. You are impacting people, and you. But see, you're an influencer of a different type. You are an influencer for awareness, and you're bringing awareness to you know, substance use disorder, to show that, you know, recovery is possible, to show that what health is doing. But you know, I watch your videos. I watch all of them. I listen to them. I see you running, you tire me out, I fall asleep then, it's perfect, it's good. But there's been one part of this, what you've been doing, and it's usually when it's dark out in the morning and it was cold, and I'm like, now this guy's just totally off his effing rocker, because here he is, and it's like, you know, 20 degrees out, and you're submersing yourself in ice cold water. Why?
Yes, so there's it's called hormetic stressors, right? And there's 3 ways that you can stress your hormetic system. And it's 1, by cold exposure, 2, by like fitness of some sort, and the other one is food restrictions. And they will all kind of like affect the brain in the same way. And it causes your brain to release adrenaline, epinephrine, and norepinephrine. I find that I've had success with all 3. I've done all 3. I like to do like intermittent fasting. I obviously love to work out. But the cold plunge is like something that's super accessible, and it's very intense, like the feeling that you get from it. I highly recommend, at least if you're just getting your feet wet into it, no pun intended, but start with cold showers. Not only is it gonna like, you know, give you a jolt of energy in the morning, but it causes your brain to release like the feel-good endorphins that you get from using drugs, essentially. So like when you use for so long, like your dopamine receptors are kind of out of whack. You don't get rewarded for the things that you should get rewarded for, because you've been being rewarded for using. So the cold is a way to be rewarded for, you know, putting yourself.
You're telling me that cold is a reward?
Yeah.
So it's a reward.
Yes.
All
you're
right.
gonna get a huge dump of dopamine and serotonin that's gonna last through the entire day. So the recommended dosage for cold exposure is 11 minutes per week in total.
Oh, okay. So 11 minutes.
Yeah, 11 minutes per week. So if you could do, 2 minutes a day, or, break it up is however you want to, but it seems like the sweet spot is around 11 minutes per week at water below 60 degrees.
So you do this every day? Or
mostly every day.
A few times a day?
Yeah, it depends on if we get busy sometimes. Sometimes Cass gives me a hard time if I'm like, hang on a second, listen, I gotta go.
I gotta jump in the water.
Yeah.
So has Cass ever done this?
She has not, but she's looking forward to do it when she gets done with the pregnancy.
Right, that makes sense, of course. Yeah, I wouldn't want to shock her. I would keep her as calm as possible at this point, But as far as this goes, I've been interested. It's something that I've been really interested in, only because I've explored the benefits. I've, of course, YouTubed every video possible on it and read every, wiki page out there about it, and and I'm interested. So of course, I want to do this, and I want to see exactly what it does for me and get that high for the rest of the day. So
let's go. Let's take the plunge.
A grown man cry yet on camera? We might today.
So this is right now. This water's probably about right around 60 degrees. After we get the water in there, or the ice in there, it should be. We should get it into the 50s. So the idea here, while you're getting in, you want to go calmly, slow in, right?
Cool.
Breathing through, dunk under, pop back out. Your body's gonna want to, do what it's gonna do, shiver. You're gonna start to have some heavy breathing. Just try to calm yourself, stay calm, and before you get out, dunk again. The idea is calm in, calm out.
Here we go.
Woo! Oh yeah, nice deep breaths. Good, you're in at 5:17. Breathe through it. Good. Just cold water. Thinking about me having conversations with the camera so long from now.
Yeah, a little bit. Oh, I'm ready to get out. You did good.
Good.
Woo! Woohoo! That was crazy.
Oh yeah. It'll take you a while to warm up, but oh yeah, you're gonna shiver it outside for a while.
Everybody, if you are not following this gentleman right here, how can they follow you? Instagram?
At Kellen Matthews _.
At Kellen Matthews _. TikTok?
Same thing, across the board.
You're good branding.
Actually, on Facebook, it's Kellen Runs Philly.
There you go. Check them out. Amazing. This is Britt Carpenter with USALA Media, here with Kellen Matthews. Thanks so much for your time today. If you haven't tried this right here, I suggest you do it. Thanks, and have a great day. Remember, whatever you stand for, be a voice.